Knock out sugar cravings with nutrition, food, and new habits. I couldn't resist pulling out my boxing gloves. Hey, it's your girl Carmel Jean-Francois, owner and founder of C-Fit Coaching. Welcome back to another installment of the Sugar Savvy Solution, acclimating the foodie in you to a life beyond sugar. So before we get started on talking about how to knock out sugar cravings through nutrition, food, and new habits, I want to remind you that I am your health and wellness coach. I'm here to acclimate those of you who have come to realize that you might have an addiction to sugar, an addiction to food. I'm here to assist you in adapting a whole food, plant-based, vegan, and fit lifestyle in order to regain control over your eating. And I'm here to encourage everyone to add more plants to your plate. Now, the second thing I want to tell you before we get started is that I will be starting a 6-week program for those of you who want to combat your sugar addiction, or even if you feel like you have cravings that you cannot knock out. I'm your girl. So this is going to start the first week of February. I'm looking to work with only 3 individuals. So if you are one of those 3, DM me, and I'll also include my Calendly link at the bottom so you could just go ahead and book a call with me. So how do you knock out sugar cravings? Of course, anybody might go ahead and say, well, I just won't eat the stuff. Yeah. And maybe somebody might think, well, the whole food plant-based vegan is going to go ahead and say, eat more plants. And I'm going to say, yeah. But I'm also going to add, stay away from overly processed food. That means all the fast food restaurants, I'm not going to name any names. You know them, you go to them, right? And that means many, hundreds of the items on our supermarket shelves. If you turn the container around, first of all, if it's at any fast food restaurant, that's it right there. If you're at the supermarket and you turn the package around and it has more than 3 ingredients, in my opinion, you leave that alone. So let's get right to it. How do you beat these cravings? How do you fight these cravings? How do you knock these sugar cravings out? By first really identifying why you're even craving the sweet stuff. Today, we're not so much talking about addiction, although it kind of falls under that umbrella. We're talking about the cravings, right? So you might be like, no, Kamal, I'm good. I'm not addicted. I just have some cravings every once in a while. And whether we have a craving every once in a while or we have them every day, sugar is still very detrimental to our metabolic health, whether we like it or not, in small quantities and in large quantities. So it's better that we just kind of like tame the cravings and we save it for the birthdays and save it for the celebrations. So the first way I want to share, the first action step. So if you look down on your plate, you want to see 3 things on your plate when you're eating at any particular meal. And you want to see protein, you want to see fat, and you want to see fiber. But don't go crazy with the protein and the fat. So if we're approaching this as a whole food, plant-based vegan, proteins look like tofu, lentils, beans, right? Fats look like olives and avocado. Fiber is pretty much everything on the list. It includes whole grains. It includes dark leafy greens. It also includes cruciferous vegetables, which are the broccoli and the cauliflower. Now, when I became whole food plant-based vegan, I didn't do it to fight a sugar addiction. I didn't do it to curb cravings, but that was one of the surprise benefits of it for me. Well, all I did was eat vegetables. I ate salads and I had a green smoothie like every day. And on the 3rd or 4th day, I remember thinking, I haven't had any candy. I haven't had any sweets. And that was a big deal for me because your self-proclaimed sugar addict would have sugar in her diet every single day. But what happened was that I took in so many fruits and vegetables. Not only did I crowd out any unhealthier options, but also it took the cravings away because I was eating so many fruits and vegetables, which has a natural sweetness that our palate is pretty much numb to because with all the overly processed foods that we eat, our taste buds are completely overstimulated. Give in to the sweetness. Yes, I said it. And all I mean by that is eat foods that are already naturally sweet, like our carrots, our pumpkins, our sweet potato, our beets. Or add some flavor to your foods with cinnamon, ginger, mint. Another way to knock out sugar cravings, out of sight, out of mind. Keep the junk in the supermarket. When I go to the supermarket and I look at the ice cream in the freezer section, I look and I remember and I leave it there only because I know the detriment it poses to my body and I don't want the repercussions of it. For me, it's not worth it. And if it's still calling you, do your best to grab a healthier substitute. So if you're bringing some foods home that are triggering and that might cause you to give into your sugar cravings, make sure there's an apple on standby. Make sure there's an orange on standby because even though that is taking in sugar, that sugar is a lot healthier than the overly processed foods we'll find at the supermarket. Fasting, intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting is a pattern of eating where you cycle through a period of fast and a period of feast. So the most common ratio is the 16-8. 16 hours you spend fasting and the 8 hours feasting. Yes, the 16 hours does include the time that you sleep. Now, what does this have to do with your sugar cravings? When you're not eating, you're not spiking. And if you're not spiking, you're not crashing. And if you're not crashing, you're not craving more sugar. Your insulin is lowered. And guess what? You get to burn fat, which means you get to lose weight. Next up, identify your triggers. When I was a child and my father used to come home from work, oftentimes he would come home with a little brown paper bag. And if he did, we knew what was inside: egg rolls. It was his leftover lunch. But that little brown paper bag was a trigger. Whether we were hungry or not, we knew what was inside and we wanted it. Another example. Whenever I get up from my computer and I'm walking over towards the printer, all of a sudden I feel like, oh, is there a snack that I can grab? Simply because I'm up. Not that I craved it earlier, not that I'm hungry, not that I'm thirsty, nothing. It's just the fact that I get up and I would be used to maybe grabbing something. Maybe it's a nut, but most likely it was a piece of chocolate. And I'd look for it. So that's a trigger. And another example I have for you, because I'm filled with them. Every time I go into the city, I specifically look for those street vendors who always sell honey roasted peanuts. I think I live for them. That is a trigger because every time I'm in the city, whether I'm taking the subway or whether I'm driving, so that's a trigger. So what triggers you? So my tip to you is to pay attention and take note of the people, the places, the things, the surroundings, the smells, the sounds that trigger you. The last thing I have for you for now is get active. Y'all know that is my absolute favorite thing to do. I did a whole video on it called Sweat It Out, how exercise helps control your blood sugar levels. And how does it? Well, it regulates your blood sugar and it doesn't even take that much effort. You'd be surprised. Very little is required in order to help in that area. So go ahead and check my video out. The link, of course, is in the description.